Before I get into what this video is actually going to be about, I'm going to talk about the variety of weird things that happened to me in my life. And please, I invite you to share yours too. I'm not going to leave you with the sad one. I'm going to start with that one and then give you something bizarre, but excuse me, not so bad. There was a day when my mom and I were trying to call each other back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and none of our calls went through. All day long, I tried to leave a message, couldn't leave a message. She tried to call me, couldn't get through to me. It just went on and on the whole day. And by nighttime, I thought, you know what? I give up. My phone's obviously not working. Maybe her phone isn't working. I'll just call her in the morning. Well, the next morning, before I had a chance to call her, my sister called me to tell me that my mom had killed herself. Now, when something like that happens, you of course want to think of what you might have been able to do to change things, or if I had been able to get a hold of her, would that have changed her outcome? Did she think I didn't love her because I wasn't calling her back? A million questions go through my mind. And of course, everybody else was thinking the same thing. But I'm not going to leave you with that. I'm going to talk about another bizarro thing that's a little bit more lighthearted. Sorry, I didn't know if somebody was coming at me. This one has to do with this week. I work at my daughter's consignment shop. I'm actually on my way there right now. And my back and my neck are always really bad. My back has always been a problem. I do have a slight case of scoliosis. Not enough for anybody to, to say, oh my God, look how bent she is. But, and over the years it has become worse. But, back in the day when I was a kid, doctors at schools didn't check for things like that. Now they check for things like that. They could have caught it early on had they noticed. But anyway, also my neck is always really sore these days. So I went to work on Saturday. This is Saturday. I went to work on Wednesday and was in so much pain I felt like somebody had taken an axe and just kept slamming it into my lower back. I could not wait to get home. Well, when I got home, I did not want to have to stand at the kitchen sink and make myself something. So I thought, well, though I don't always go to Burger King, I don't really like fast food that much, except for tacos. I do like tacos. But I went to Burger King to get a Junior Whopper because I hadn't had one in such a long time. And this has never happened before to me. If it's happened to you, let me know. I go in through the drive-thru. I'm sitting there giving my order. I say, yes, I would like a Junior Whopper. And this is what I hear. We don't have any meat today. I thought, okay, I did not hear that correctly because this is Burger King. The name is in the title. And I said, what? He goes, we don't have any meat today. Okay, well, again, like I said, bizarre things happen to me all the time. Lighthearted, mostly like this one. So I thought, okay, well, I still don't feel like standing around making myself something to eat. So I'm just going to go to Casey's because Casey's had this special going. And I'd never had a barbecued brisket on Hawaiian bread sandwich. I'm not usually a meat eater, though, which is so weird. I just had a taste for something like that. So I go in there and ask where they are, how I can get one. And I hear, oh, we're not making those anymore. That was just a summer special. So went home and made myself a grilled cheese sandwich. But anyway, also another thing, that was the same day. I thought, okay, well, I need to get gas. So I went to Walmart, which is right next to where my daughter's consignment boutique is, to get gas. And they're building a McDonald's there. The only thing I like at McDonald's is their fries. So I'm not really excited about this. But it was to open the next day. So in one day, the cost of gas, and I don't know if this is any correlation to the McDonald's being there and the gas price going up, went up 20 cents a gallon. So I didn't get gas. So, okay, well, the reason I wanted to make this video is nothing about what I just talked about. So I'll be back later. Hope you're having a great day. I think the thing that I wanted to talk about today was getting to know yourself. You hear a lot about that. Know thyself, people say, and get to know yourself. And I've come to realize that there are things about myself I know, but it changes all the time. I know that I have a short attention span. I don't know how to deal with that. I never have. I've tried focusing. It doesn't work. I know I take things very literally. So if you say you're going to call me tomorrow, to me, tomorrow means the day after today. To other people, tomorrow means whenever, To give you an example of how I take things literally, I'm going to go back to the time when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, and my family and I were playing a game. It may have been Candyland, and I remember my dad saying, when I asked him why I was stuck somewhere, he says, well, you can't move until you draw a red card. So I said, okay. Got up, ran to the junk drawer. The whole family's like looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm thinking to myself, isn't it obvious? I'm looking for a piece of paper and a red crayon so I can draw a red card. Duh. Yeah, but yeah, that's typically who I am. But who I am changes according to the circumstances. You can know how you're going to respond in a certain situation, but then when it happens, you might not respond the way you thought you would. If somebody had told me, for instance, that I was going to get robbed, I would have thought, oh, fine, I don't have anything, so go ahead, take it all. But it happened, kind of. I was living with my oldest daughter in a 1-bedroom apartment, which was all I could afford. And I don't think that it had any air conditioning in it, which I've said in a previous video. I need air conditioning because I have a heat problem, a problem with heat. So I was in the bedroom with my daughter. We were both sleeping on cots because that was the only furniture we had. I had lawn chairs in my living room, and I'm talking about the old kind with the plastic things that, that run through each other, the old-fashioned kind. And then in the dining room, I had a card table. So all of a sudden, I feel this person laying on top of me, or sitting on top of me. And I was wheezing. That was why I woke up, actually. And maybe he heard me wheeze, and that was why he came into the room. And his body type looked like the guy I was engaged to, who became my second husband. And I thought, what is he doing? And here he is. He's got what I realized later was a knife held to my throat. And I said, what are you doing? Can't you tell I'm having an asthma attack? So I pushed him off of me. And I think it surprised him too, because he let me go into the dining room to get my inhaler from the card table. And as I'm going through my purse to get this inhaler, I see another guy rummaging through my freezer. And I said, are we having a party? When you wake up from a deep sleep and you're having an asthma attack and your mind's just not working really well, you come up with really bizarre type things to say. Well, I didn't recognize that body type. And then the guy with the knife heard some movement in the bedroom, who was my daughter, And he said, what was that? And I thought, well, I could say my husband, but then what if he ran in there to kill my daughter? So I said it was my daughter, and she came running out, and I grabbed her and put her in my arms while he had his arm wrapped around my neck with the knife in it. And I mean, obviously we had nothing, just so the guy says, now I had my engagement ring on and I had my family heirloom ring on, so I was trying to hide those with my hands, and he didn't see them, obviously. I guess he probably figured I wouldn't have anything worth money if I was living with card tables and lawn chairs and cots in my house. So he and the other guy said, what should we do with them? And the one guy said, tie them to the table. Even now, just thinking about that, I remember looking at the card table and thinking, oh, you guys are so stupid. And I guess they realized at the same time that it was not going to be a good option. So they threw us in the bathroom and said, count to 100. And that's what we did. Got out. And then here's another bizarre thing that happened at the same time. So I get out to call my fiance, and I can't get through to him. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I know he's not awake. And of course we didn't have cell phones back then, so it was just the house phone, but it was busy. And I'd hang up and I'd call back and it was busy. And I'd hang up and I'd call back and it was busy. Well, in the meantime, I had called the cops too, because my daughter told me to, because I hadn't thought about that. And I could not get a hold of my fiance for the longest time. Cops came, cops left, I called, the phone's still busy. I'm like, what is going on? Maybe it's off the hook. Finally I got through, and it was his roommate who answered. His roommate had been on the phone with the girlfriend of his roommate's girlfriend, and she had called him and said, something's wrong with somebody. Somebody's wrong, and it's got to do with Greg. Go check on him. So he went to check on my future divorced husband, and he was okay. He was in bed sleeping. She said, go look downstairs. There's something going on. Seriously, go downstairs. Puts the phone down, goes downstairs, checks the laundry room, checks all the rooms in the house. Nothing. So then she says, you have to find something. Go outside. He went out. Of course, this is while all this stuff is going on while I'm calling him. He went into the garage to look. They had a creek at the end of his house, and he went up and down that looking for nothing, and then of course the thing that was bad that was happening to somebody was happening to me. The end of that story is that when the police left, before they left, they said to me, didn't you know you were moving into a high crime area? And I said, do you think I would have moved into a high crime area if I had known that? I have a daughter. So I got out of my lease, and that was the end of that story. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what my bizarre world is like. I may or may not be back into this video, and if I'm not, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for future bizarre content. Have a great day. Bye. I'm sorry this is taking so long for me to finish. As I said, get distracted, plus I'm having lots of allergy problems with my eyes. But I wanted to get back to the getting to know who you are topic. I think a lot of the reasons that I believe it takes a lifetime to get to know yourself, and maybe beyond, because everything changes all the time. And I think we define ourselves by the relationships we have. So, if you're a mom or your dad, a brother, a sister, daughter, son, cousin, whatever, friend, if you define yourself by those relationships, when one of them is gone, you have to keep redefining who you are. As I mentioned earlier, when my mom left, and that was after my dad did, it just kind of changes who you are. So knowing who you are is a constant lesson. You're always learning who you are. And then when different situations arise, the same thing happens. You know, by the time you get to be my age, you realize that life is so finite. That's not something you think about when you're really young. But when your friends start getting diseases and dying and the world becomes a chaotic mess, you have to keep redefining who you are. So how do you get to know yourself when everything about yourself keeps changing? That's an ongoing question I have. And I think I'm going to leave this very long video right now, for me anyway, and leave you with one last thing. And I'd like to describe it first before I go, because, excuse me, my daughter and I live with her right now, until my bus is ready, have the weirdest problem with mail. Don't understand it at all. So I'm going to show you a picture of my mailbox. I guess the landlord is trying to get rid of a bike because we keep moving it and he keeps putting it back in front of the mailbox. The only problem with that is that the mail delivery person won't leave our mail if the garbage is too close to it or if the bicycle is blocking it. So I just went to pick up my mail at the post office. Naturally, it's my daughter and mine. And this is some of it. Just some of it. What I can hold in my hand. It's ridiculous. I mean, back in the old days, it was rain, snow, sleet, hail. We'll deliver it whenever. Maybe because we don't have a person who walks around delivering the mail. They can only deliver it from their vehicle. Because I said, she can't get out of her vehicle and walk 3 steps to the mailbox. No, it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous. There could be a pothole there. So we have to keep driving to the mailbox to pick up the post office to pick up our mail. I want to leave you with this. I hope you all have a great day. I hope somebody's watching this video. I don't know why you would, though. It's just, if you can handle the chaotic mind, maybe yours is chaotic too, then you might appreciate the problems I go through every day trying to just live my life. But yeah, have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you could subscribe, I would appreciate it.